So today marks the final day of the regular season in the NFL. I'm an attorney who specializes in employment law and a little sports law stuff. I'm a former HR executive. I'm an athlete development specialist, but fundamentally, I'm a sports fan. But I combine all those lenses to provide some perspective. And so we have the end of the regular season today. And with the end of the regular season, we always see what we call Black Monday. And that is a day in which coaches of teams that have performed poorly this season or have had a series of consecutive poorly performing seasons, those coaches are let go on Black Monday. That is tomorrow. It's always a great opportunity as Black Monday approaches to look at where the league is with regard to the hiring of Black coaches. The league has had some success since the Rooney Rule was implemented in the mid 2000s. There's been some decline in those areas. We have 3 Black coaches in the NFL currently, as of right now, and one serving in an interim role with the Atlanta Falcons. On the NCAA side, at the collegiate level, out of 130 FBS programs, 13 have Black coaches. There are currently no Black coaches in the SEC or the Big 12, despite the fact that 61% of the football players in the SEC are Black. No currently serving Big 12 athletic director has ever hired a Black coach. We have seen just in the last 24, 30 hours, the hiring of Steve Sarkisian, who was the offensive coordinator for University of Alabama. He's been hired to be the head coach at the University of Texas. This all brings up the fact, and these examples bring up the fact that there is a lot of work to do, and that there isn't much consideration given to equity with regard to the hiring of interviewing and hiring and retaining diverse candidates for these coaching positions. And the inequity demonstrates itself in any number of ways. One of which is homologous reproduction, which is just a fancy way of saying people hire and deal with and promote and socialize with the folks that are around them, and people tend to do those things around people who look like them, physically, philosophically, ideologically, and so on and so forth. And so you have that going on where it's just people choosing people they already know and have relationship with. The lack of equity in the hiring of the decision makers making the decisions is a key point. There is a less talked about form of inequity going on, in the sense that a lot of Power 5 programs have behind them strong donor bases of boosters, former alums who give millions of dollars and have buildings named after them. There aren't many Black boosters of Power 5 programs who who have that type of access, and thus can wield that type of control or leverage that type of pressure on programs to hire the people that they want to have hired. Historically, what we've seen also is that Blacks are appointed to positions that don't necessarily lead to being considered for coaches. Blacks as players are often slotted, it's called stacking, where they are put in positions that are considered less essential, or considered the positions historically that have required less mental acumen, if you will. We've seen that kind of inequity breaking down, though, here recently in the NFL, with the proliferation of not just Black quarterbacks, but successful Black quarterbacks. And I do think that in some instances, very limited though, I do think, unfortunately, we do have just some lingering vestiges of prejudice and discrimination coming into play. But the pipeline is fundamentally broken. The positive thing is that it can be fixed. We are in a moment of transformation in this country from a racial standpoint and a reckoning standpoint. Now is the time, and here's an opportunity to carve out a different path. But if the pipeline is broken at the collegiate level, then that certainly is going to lead and contribute to the brokenness in the NFL level. If Steve Sarkisian can get hired within hours of the vacancy being created at Texas, then that's a missed opportunity, not just for the University of Texas and hiring or going through a hiring process that has equity and inclusion in mind, but it was a missed opportunity to be a model for other schools, not just within the Big 12, but amongst all the Power 5 programs. So schools considering, and their presidents and ADs and the commissioners of the leagues, and at the NFL level, the owners, the league itself, being more deliberate and taking its time with regard to these hires, and not being as much of a rush to hire the person they've always thought about. So there are opportunities. I don't want to portray this as something that has to stay as it is into perpetuity. Things can change, but what it will require is some strategy and some deliberate thought around how programs can be more thoughtful and equitable when it comes to creating and tapping into diverse candidate pools when it comes to head coaching slots. I hope everybody is well. We'll be keeping an eye on the progress of this situation. We'll see what the carousel turns out tomorrow. You take care of yourselves, and I will see you again soon.